It's been 16 years since I graduated from the University of Maine at Orono. 16 years. Just went to my 20th high school reunion. That probably seems pretty far out there to you guys. But still on the trail, people look at me and they say, how old are you? You know, wearing a baseball hat, whatever it may be, listening to what I talk about, some of the cultural issues. How old are you? How old are you? It still comes up. So I do, to Dan's remarks, I feel very much akin to you. And, you know, I do want to tell you a quick story because it's coming up 95 in August for me. Anyone here from Orono? Stay in Orono? You're in Orono? Any other U-Mainers? So in early August every year, I would have to go up that highway. I play football at the University of Maine, and I leave my friends, family behind to go up and participate in preseason camp. But there's actually a good analogy about my kind of college football career that I'm learning was appropriate very early on, which was I was a walk-on athlete at the University of Maine. Everybody know what that means? No? I'll tell you real quick. It means you weren't really recruited. They didn't give you any money to come play. You weren't invited to the party. You weren't part of the establishment. You're kind of crashing the party, as it were. So, walk-ons don't usually get a really warm reception. You come late, the team's been in camp for a couple of weeks, and you show up, and they keep you apart from the team. Not part of the establishment, right? So I got there, and I wanted to play at the University of Maine. It was my dream. And it was September. The team had been together for months, for a couple months at least. And they took about 15, 20 of us ragtag guys out in the field. They wanted to see how fast we were, how agile we were, how much we could lift. And as a result of that, 2 of us ended up sticking around. Made the team, in fact. Subsequently, we thought, hey, we're on the team. Give us our equipment, go in the locker room. And it wasn't that way. They gave us equipment and they told go in the intramural locker room. So we really weren't that well accepted. I got put on defense, I got run over, I got hurt, I got pushed around, really ostracized in every single way of the world. I worked all winter long to try to get faster, bigger, stronger, as big as a 5'8" guy could possibly get. And I came back that spring and I made 2 catches in the spring game. The following spring, fall, I traveled with the team. I returned kickoffs in front of 15, 20,000 people a year after just coming on the scene as a walk-on athlete. And sure enough, I started getting this support, respect of friends I talk to this day from after winning 2 Yankee Conference championships at the University of Maine. So it was a long haul there. It was painful. And coming into it from the outside, people, well, who's this guy? Who does he think he is? Let me tell you, the exploratory process and getting around from county to county was exactly the same way. I was a walk-on. I stormed the barn, I crashed the party, and I said, hey, look at me. But guess what? I think 6 months later, since we started this process, we've turned some heads, and people are saying, yeah, this guy's serious. So that's where we are. I was a walk-on, and now I'm on the varsity, I guess you could say. So I'm particularly interested in how to kind of, I don't want to say revolutionize, but certainly most of the folks, when I go around to the county functions, I say, you guys are younger than by 60 years or so. There's not a whole lot of outreach effort to the younger, energetic community. And I think, maybe I'm leading that charge. You might think that's what I'm going to do. And I want to know, I think that's part of your endeavor too, right here, which is how do you guys get bigger, more influential? How do you gain support? And coming from the commercial side of things, where I've spent my 15 years in technology, I read it recently too. When I was your age as a senior in college, I think in a management class they told me you'll have two jobs by the time you're 40. Well, somewhere in the last 20 years that statistics changed. And now you'll have 12 jobs by the time you're 40. Guess what? I've had 12 jobs by the time I'm 40. But I haven't had any of those in Maine. But anyway, having come from that enterprise and from that side of things, I've discovered one thing about the Maine Republican Party. It needs to change. It needs to become more energized. It needs to become more youthful. It needs to look a little bit more like perhaps commercial enterprise or commercial endeavor, if you will. And I think a lot of that is about the messenger. Maybe that's why my message is resonating a little bit, and maybe we're getting some of the attraction. We're using, we had Ralph and Jane and some other folks down to help develop the website early on. And a lot of your input went into that. And that website actually now is the most visited website that company hosts and manages. But I want to bring up a couple of examples of this, because I'm a firm believer that right now in the party, in the country, we're 10 for 10 on all the issues. We really are. If anybody read the Wall Street Journal yesterday, and you read about Reaganomics 2.0, hey, I was the guy that said 2.0 in the first place. You know, what does that all mean? It means we've screwed up as a party, really, the last several years. We squandered all that capital Reagan built, but there were some good principles there. And how do we take those principles and carry them forward with new ideas, new technology, new innovation, and stimulate healthcare, smaller government, lower taxes, and all that good stuff? We've got a monopoly on the ideas. What we don't have a monopoly is the messengers. Anybody here read The Tipping Point? No? I suggest you read it. I'm going to bring up two examples of what I mean, and how I want to shape this campaign, maybe how you can help and how I can help you. One is, Tipping Point is written by a guy named Malcolm Gladwell. And it talks about, you guys probably don't remember in the 70s, there were these really pathetic suede shoes called Hush Puppies. And the company that made Hush Puppies was actually on the outs. They were ready to close doors, but some particular fashionistas in Greenwich Village started wearing them. And all of a sudden, sales tripled, doubled in the subsequent years. And they had nothing to do with marketing, nothing to do with advertising, and they were scratching their heads trying to figure out how they did it. Well, when a certain influential group within a community starts doing something and promoting something, it gets viral, and it spans out from there. So that was the reason for their success. The more antiquated, perhaps the first viral marketer was a guy named Paul Revere. Did you know Paul Revere ran west, and there was another guy who ran east, I think. I don't even know his name. Paul Revere was so successful, bells were clanging, drums were going off, shots were being fired. He got his message out as far as Worcester by 1 a.m. And he had started, I think, at 10 that night. That's a pretty long ways for anybody who knows Massachusetts geography. But there was another guy who went the other direction, who got no support. No guns, no drums. Fell on deaf ears. The bottom line, it's the messenger. And this is where you guys come into play. And this is where my campaign is going to come into play. Is that I want to make a campaign that's highly energetic and highly viral. And stimulate a state in a Republican Party that, quite frankly, is gasping for air. Absolutely gasping for air. And it's tough for me, because coming in, and Dan made the reference to LL Cool J, I'll go a little more modern. I like Mary J. Blige as well. LL's a little old, but in a state that's really gasping for air, it needs innovation, it needs energy, and I think we've got some ideas on how to do that. I think Dan, you know, a kind of old school viral thing that we were doing a couple weeks ago, went to the Topsom Fair, and we were having a demolition derby. It felt like 1952, right? But guess what? I went up and I shook every hand in the stadium. Had to do it. You've got to do that. That's that youthful energy and exuberance you've got to bring to the campaign. It's the same thing you guys got to bring to your effort here in getting that kind of exposure. Because let me tell you, on all the issues, and if you want to talk about the issues, I'll stick around and talk about the issues. We have got it. We've got it on culture, we've got it on war, we've got it on the economy. You name it. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to run the table. And the opportunity is so wonderful in the 1st District right now. We're going to get national coverage from this race, being one of only 2 or 3 open seats in the state right now. And I want to bring you guys along with on that ride. I really do. Because when I look around the state, and one of the reasons I chose Dan, and I think Dan chose me, is that sort of youthful energy. That idea of how do we breathe life into this party? How do we keep the principles of Reagan alive with new ideas? And I haven't heard anybody in the state talk about that stuff. So, I mean, the call to you guys is get involved. Get involved with my campaign, if you can. Get involved with the state party. And together, let's build a synergistic kind of approach to Maine politics. Let's make it viral. Let's shake hands. Let's be like Paul Revere.